You've written 3 pantheons, 4 continents, and a 5,000-year history of the age before civilization, and your players still haven't left the tavern. Does this sound familiar to you? If so, world building is probably addictive. But here's the truth. We don't need a 100-page lore bible to run a great campaign. What we need is a world that our players can actually touch. World building is the hobby inside the hobby. It's fun, it's creative, it scratches that I'm building something big itch. But if you're not careful, we can end up writing lore in a vacuum. Pages and pages that never touch the table. Today, I'm going to give you a simple toolkit. Practical ways to know what's worth prepping, what to cut, and how to channel your love of lore into something your players will remember. I'm Jaden. I've been running TTRPGs for 13 years, and let me confess, I too wrote a 40-page history of an ancient war. But guess how much of it came up in my campaign? None. My players didn't care, didn't ask. It took me years to learn this. Our players don't need a textbook, they need a playground. So here's how we build one. World building is satisfying because it feels productive. We're creating something big, but sometimes it's not prep, it's procrastination. The danger is the deeper we go, the more we drift from the game itself. If we're writing lore instead of prepping sessions, we're novelists, not GMs. I once mapped an entire solar system, multiple planets, moons, trade routes. My players explored 4 places. The rest of my notes never mattered. Another GM I know spent months writing 200 years of royal genealogy. At the table, we just wanted to know who ruled the city right now. We overbuilt because it feels safe. Lore can't fail. Players can't derail a timeline in our notebook. But here's the trap. If our world building is happening instead of prep, we're hiding from the table. I have this simple test. If you think it's going to come up in the next 3 sessions, let's prep it. If not, let's park it in the lore folder. We can always use it later, but let's not let it eat our prep time. Not all world building is wasted, but not all of it belongs at the table. You need to separate private lore from public lore. Private lore, I once wrote out a full economic model for trade across my continent. For me, it was fascinating. For my players, borderline pointless. They only cared about whether the caravans I had referenced were smuggling contraband or bringing food to their fort. Public lore side, I once spent 10 minutes coming up with the tavern keep. Scar on her cheek, hums while cleaning mugs, the players fell in love. She became the emotional anchor of the whole arc. 10 minutes of work mattered more than 20 hours of lore. Private lore is our sandbox. It's where we can scratch the itch to create. But public lore is the stuff that matters at the table, the things our players can see, touch, or break. Simple rule, only prep public lore ahead of time. NPCs, locations, conflicts, that's it. Private lore is fine, but let's keep it in our back pocket until players go looking for it, or we have a little more time that day. What actually counts as useful world building though? I use these 3 pillars: conflict, culture, and texture. Conflict. What's unstable right now? Wars, rivals, guilds, famine. Our players don't care about the 1,000 years of peace. They care about the civil war happening today. Culture. What do NPCs believe, value? Maybe peasants resent nobles, maybe dwarves prize craftsmanship. These beliefs can drive how NPCs treat the party. And texture. The little sensory details. The marketplace reeks of fish. The coins are square instead of round. The inn's fireplace spits sparks. These tiny details can sell the world more than your entire page of history. One time, I barely prepped anything. I just wrote, nobles are at war, peasants are hungry, and the city smells real bad. That was enough for me. My players felt like they were living in a world. Players don't remember the timelines. They remember the tension, the attitude, the vibe. That's why conflict, cultures, and textures are what stick. That's the 20% that gives you the 80% of your payoff. The strongest worlds don't start with maps, they start with our players, because no matter how much lore we write, our players only care about the pieces that are tied to their characters. In most cases, I start with a player's backstory. I have this current player who's a prince raised by knights. The kingdom, the politics, the villains, all of it grew outward from him. Every piece of lore was tied to his and the other characters' stories. I also had a player way back when who once made a druid who hated cities. That single detail reshaped the entire region. Suddenly our campaign had forest guardians, corrupt barons, peasants caught in between. The party, especially that character, cared because it was rooted in his story. So here's how I build for my players. 1, I take a character trait, I expand it into a place. I take that place, I expand it into a faction. I take that faction, and I build it into a story. So here's my example. The druid who hated cities. We had forests that were under siege. Lumber barons were now up against the druids. And the party, they were caught in the middle. That's when that character trait turned into a whole arc. Take a look at your campaign. How much of your world ties back to your players' backstories? If the answer is not much, that's your next step. Either that, or your next step could be heading over to roll21.shop and checking out our merch. That way you can world build an awesome shirt into your dresser, or world build a hoodie into your closet. All right. What if you just love world building though? You don't have to give it up, you just need to channel it. A GM I had from college made these really cool things. He called them lore cards. They were one-page entries with a hook, a detail, and a twist. He had this ruined keep. Its hook, it was haunted by ghosts. Detail, collapsed watchtower. Twist, full of smugglers too. He could drop it in anywhere. We went east instead of west. He grabbed that card, boom, slotted it in. Looked like he had planned it all along. In reality, it was just really smart prep. I like the idea. I've used similar things before. We still get to world build, but we get to build it in a way that actually pays off. However you do it, channel your energy into modular prep. NPCs, ruins, legends, festivals, make them portable. That way you can still build, but you're not chained to a 100-page lore Bible. Big picture, world building, it's fun. It makes our world richer, but lore only matters when the players can touch it. If your notes don't connect to your players' actions, they're just diary entries. If they do, they'll become unforgettable memories. So let's build less, play more, and let our players breathe life into our worlds. What's the most ridiculous piece of world building you've done that your players never saw? Drop it in the comments. I'm gonna read all of them and probably steal them. If this helped you sharpen your GM skills, please hit like, subscribe, and check out our actual plays. I'm Jaden from Roll21, and I'll see you next time.